everyone. I'm Pastor Nate, and welcome to our home church online service. I am so excited to be with you today and kick off a brand new series called Relationships. It is by far my favorite subject. If you've seen some of the videos that came out earlier this week, you know that I love this subject. And Pastor Alina also shared a thought about relationships, all building up to this Kickstart Sunday where we start to really dig deep into what relationships look like. To me, relationships are just weaved into every aspect of the Bible. Every story from cover to cover is all about relationships. And we want you to experience the best relationships possible. It is why home church is set up the way that we're set up. It is why we do intentionally the things that we do, is so that people can experience the best relationships they possibly can, with the ultimate relationship being with Jesus Christ. As always, if you have not experienced a moment of worship, I strongly encourage you to do that today. Even come back later and just turn on YouTube, turn on your favorite music, whatever kind of gets you in that worship mode to where it's just you and him having some moments together. Find that time of worship. I just love getting up early, kind of start every day like that. And on the TV, I'll throw on some YouTube worship videos and I'll just let it play. And it's just me and him time. It's just time for me to get ready for the day and have him just kind of usher his presence into the home and usher his presence into my day, usher his presence into my week. I invite you to do the exact same thing. And we're going to open up in some prayer. I invite you along this journey, and we're going to dive deep into opening up relationships. I think there's so much there to talk about. This may take us a while to get through. I won't keep you there forever today. So before you click off the video or go find something else to do, I promise this won't take long today. But I just believe that the Father wants us to experience him and experience relationships in a completely new way than we ever have before. Let's pray. Father, I just pause. I want to intentionally pause every time we get to pray to you. This just isn't some routed off set of words, that this isn't some pre-memorized speech. This isn't something to get in front of people and ooh them and ah them with some type of words that we've just studied out or learned. This is a gift that you've given us. We get to pause. We get to speak with you. We get to step into the throne room with God, that he steps out of heaven and into our lives in this moment of prayer. Father, our world is hurting. People are hurting. Our family is hurting. All around the world, fear and worry, anxiety about our economy, about jobs, about this virus. People are mourning deaths. Father, I just ask that your peace and presence would sweep into our homes. We absolutely need you. We're completely dependent upon you. I ask that you would wash us of all of our sins. You would speak a rhema, a fresh word today to your people. Because when your word goes forth, it brings healing and life. It brings health with every syllable that is being offered. God, sweep into our world today. May I only say the things that I hear my Father say. May you guide these discussions today. You know every prayer that's being represented on the other side of these screens, in homes and in hearts. You see every worried mind. I pray peace to minds. I pray peace to spirits. I pray peace to homes. In the name of Jesus Christ, Father, may your peace and love, answered prayers sweep into our lives today. May you completely have your way. In Jesus' name, amen. Relationships. I often wonder why they're so important to me. You know, I grew up in a single mother home for a long period of time, not the entire time. My dad and mom divorced when I was about 5 years old. And then my mom was remarried when I was like 10, 11, somewhere in there. And then divorced again when I was a little bit older of a teenager. And so a majority of that time has been really just her and me and my brothers, not a lot of family. And so early on in my life, I learned the importance of just a few relationships. The little bit of time I had with my grandmother, I loved my mom's mom. She was an elderly lady and had suffered some strokes, and because of that was on oxygen. And just when I was 16, 17 and able to drive, all my other friends were going out and having a good time. And I just wanted to go spend time with my grandma. She just loved having somebody around the house, somebody that she could cook for, clean for. There's very few things like a grandmother's love, right? I remember she would tell somebody I was the apple of her eye, just being able to hang out with her and be with her and watch wrestling with her, watch her favorite show and go grab us some burgers and ice cream. She used to love Sonic ice cream. Just something about being with someone that you love. Don't even have to do a whole lot. You don't have to have massive plans. Just being with someone that you link with, that you connect with. A lot can be accomplished with just being in each other's presence. It's the importance of a friendship during a funeral. It's the importance of family during a wedding. It's the importance of connections during these massive moments in our lives. Why relationships? I actually want to start at a different place today. If you'll go with me, I'm going to do this in the New King James Version, or ESV, I'm sorry, the English Standard Version. And so come with me to 1 Peter. I want you to go with me to chapter 4. We'll put it up on the screen to kind of make it a little bit easier for you. But in 1 Peter chapter 4, we're going to dig into the scripture a little bit later. But Peter is beginning to describe the Gentiles. And there's this tension, this real tension between the Gentiles and the Jews, and God is now reaching to the Gentiles, and these two cultures are coming together and trying to figure out how those two things are going to mix in with one another. And so here Peter is describing some of the lifestyle, some of the things that God is wanting to pull his people from, that when you are in relationship with him, these old things kind of fall away and go away, and instead you embrace these new things. And in this, as he begins, I'm going to skip a bunch and we're going to come back to it in a little bit. He starts to talk about what we're supposed to do, like how we're supposed to be when we're in relationship with him, how we're supposed to be treating one another. And he says this, he says in verse 11, whoever speaks as one who speaks oracles of God, whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies. And in America, we have now, even some have probably already done it because I can't hardly listen to my voice very long, but we listen to things that we like. We listen to things that really kind of hit us, or we listen to things that kind of give us the goosebumps, or the voice that we like, or the energy that we like, or the person that we like, or we've created this fast food buffet of preaching. And even right this moment, some people are clicking off of me and going to watch their favorite service, their favorite sermon, or their favorite preacher, or maybe their own church is hosting an online thing. And we've created this buffet of preaching, and somewhere between there, I feel like we've forgotten to fall in love with the word. Not necessarily the messenger or how the message is given to us. All of those things matter. And yes, we want to connect, and yes, we want truth preached, but it's just this truth of falling in love with the word. Like I feel like that's part of my journey right now, of just falling in love with the word. That when we speak, we are speaking oracles from God. And right this second, men and women all across the world are preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, some to cameras, some to small gatherings, some to large gatherings. It doesn't really matter, but the word of God is being preached. And I kind of encourage you to do what I'm encouraging me to do. And that's not just fall in love with the messenger. Don't just like click off and click on and watch what just kind of gives you goosebumps, but fall in love with the word. Because if you fall in love with this book, you'll fall in love with its author. When I think about relationships, of course, I've got to go back to the original. And in Genesis chapter 2, we are seeing the story of creation. We're seeing as God begins to create the planet, places man in it. He forms man from the dust of the earth. He breathes life into him. He places him on the planet. He gives him the Garden of Eden. He tells him what to eat, what not to eat. He gives him job responsibilities. He tells them, I want you to go and I want you to care for the garden. And then when he steps back, he watches and he notices something. And that is fascinating to me, that the God of the universe, who's so powerful that when he said, let there be light, today there are still galaxies and lights and stars being formed that we'll never even see, that we'll never even experience because we don't have the technology to get there or to see it, but it is still being created today because of the power of the words that God spoke. That God creates man, puts him in the garden, steps back, and watches what happens. That is fascinating. And I wonder why. Like, why does a God who knows the end from the beginning, he knows everything that can ever happen, everything that was, that is, and is to come, why did he step back and wonder what was taking place? It goes back to the power of choice. That God loved you and I so much that he created us differently. He gave us the power of choice, that we're not pawns in this massive game of chess being played between the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, where we have no say-so. No, he gave us the power of choice. He puts man in the garden. He steps back to see how he would respond. And he notices it's not good for man to be alone. So he creates animals. And he begins to parade the animals in front of Adam. You and I, like our God believes that much to you. He believes that much in you that he has given you the power to call things in your life as you want them. He parades the animals in front of Adam and he says, Adam, you name them. Adam, you pick what these animals are going to be called. I just feel like that is important for us to grasp, that there are things in our lives that we have the power to call as we want them. That you and I have the power to speak to a dead marriage, to speak to struggling finances, to speak to a dead-end job, to speak to dreams that we feel like we've given up on. We have the power to speak to these things and call them as they are. So God says, Adam, call the animals. And as Adam's calling the animals and sending them before Adam, he steps back and he says, nope. There's no suitable mate for him. It's not that wasn't the answer. Animals was not the only solution. He needs more. I'm going to give him woman. You see, because while we're on this earth, God is helping us realize this principle. He said, let us make man in our image. Let us make humans that represent me as God. But we are still in these finite bodies. We're in these finite beings with finite brains, with finite flesh that can only live so long, can only do so much. And he breathed inside of those finite containers an infinite soul, a piece of himself that becomes us, that lives on forever. And so when he says, let us make him a mate, he makes Adam Eve out of a rib and he breathes into her life, because into Adam was one piece of God and into Eve was another piece, and into their children another piece. Each of us as individuals representing a different aspect, a different portion, a different perspective of the character of the God that you and I represent. That you were made magnificently, that he knew you when he created you. He placed a piece of himself inside of you. That is not to be ignored. That wasn't so that you just barely scrape by. It wasn't so that you can just barely survive. It wasn't so that you could checklist something off on our Christian to-do list or create some like religious cult that we've got to go be a part of so that we can make it to heaven. He created us as individuals to represent his identity, to represent his character, to represent a different portion of himself. And though I am magnificent on my own, when I come together with another aspect, another portion of him, another perspective of who God is, I become a more fuller picture. And it goes back to relationships. He said, man shall leave his mother and father and cling to his wife. The two shall become one. It's because we are great all by ourselves, but together we're a more fuller picture of who God is. We more represent the fullness of our Father. This is the beauty about coming together as a people. If you look at the logo right here of relationships for our series, it's black and white with this multicolored photo of relationships, because relationships are not black and white. Even though things are trying to separate us as a people, things are not black and white. It is many, many shades of colors. We represent a multifaceted God, one that is so deep, so multifaceted that we will never figure him out. We will never place him in a box. And even when I try to place him in my own little box for my own life, he busts out of it and breaks out of it each and every time. And this is the importance of relationship. You and I were created to be in relationship first with our Maker. And even then, he said it is not good for man to be alone. He needs someone else. He can't experience all of me. He will never by himself experience the depthness of who I am. So let me create another being on this planet that will show another aspect of who I am, so that he can experience me on a personal level, and then he can experience me in a relationship level with those that he's connected to. This is the amazing power that relationships give us, that you and I were created to be in relationship, and then he creates each individual to represent a different aspect of him. And that's why we long for relationship, because ultimately we long to be connected with him. And when we're with others, when we're with people, we are connected to different aspects of him. This is the beauty of coming together as a community. This is the power of the church culture of coming together. When you're worshiping together, when you're praying together, when you're experiencing the word, the moves of God together, it's because we are experiencing different aspects of who he is. It is just mind-blowing how the Father has created each of us to show different aspects of him. And that's why I long to be in relationship with others. Let me quickly get this where we need to get it, and so we can wrap it up here. I want to go back to 1 Peter. I'm going to go to chapter 4. We're going to start at verse 7. And so, again, Peter is laying out all the things that were, and then he says this. He says, the end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. He's saying, hey, look, these things are going to go away. As you move into a relationship with God, you're going to mature and grow, and you're going to move away from these things. These things are going to come to an end. There's a lot of metaphors we could make there about what God is calling, but we're going to just kind of stick to what we're talking about today. He says, and I want you to be self-controlled, sober-minded. I want you to have some self-control. When it comes to relationships, we got to have some self-control. We've got to be able to control our emotions. We got to be able to know when to be patient. We got to know to be self-controlled, to be kind, because it doesn't come natural. It doesn't come natural to be long-suffering. It doesn't come natural to be patient. It doesn't come natural to show love to those who are acting very unlovable. Just ask anyone with a teenager. It's not easy. It doesn't come natural. You have to have some self-control to say no to self so that I can serve others, that can allow others to example, to feel, to experience what love is like. He said, be sober-minded, that we're in self-control, when we're sober-minded, when we are all here, when we're being very intentional with our thoughts, we're being very intentional with our interactions. We're being intentional with how we're building relationships. Now we can be intentional about those connections. That if I represent the Father, that if I represent a different attribute of who he is, then I need to be intentional about those connections that I'm making. He says, be sober-minded, be self-controlled for the sake of your prayers. That if we want the Father to answer us, if we want the Father to move for us, we want our words to carry power, then we have to be sober-minded, we have to be self-controlled, and we have to do the rest of these things. He says, above all, loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. I don't know about you, but I'm just speaking for me. I got a lot of sin in my life. I got a lot of things about me that I don't like. I got a lot of things about me. There is a constant work in progress. I need love in my life. I need love to be shown to me. When I make a mistake with my wife, I need there to be love that covers that mistake, that covers that sin, so that 21 years turns into 22, turns into 32, turns into 52, turns into 100, well, maybe not 102, but you get the point. Love covers a multitude of sins. It's when our best friend says something out of tone, when our close relatives that we are very close to does something out of character, my love covers those sins. It covers those mistakes. It covers those things, not to end the relationship. You see, God is trying to help us understand that when sin was brought into the world by man, it brought separation. And it was only his love that covers those multitude, that bridges that gap and brings those two things back together. The same thing happens in the physical realm. I believe there's always this connection about what happens in the physical happens in the spiritual as well, and usually happens in the spiritual first. That there's separation in relationship whenever there is sin, a mistake, an offense. There's a separation in relationships, but God is trying to help us understand that when we show love, when we robustly, we'll get it out, when we show love to one another, that it covers a multitude of sins. It bridges that gap. It keeps us in relationship with one another. It says, above all, loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins, showing hospitality one to another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. This is an amazing set of scriptures that help us understand that God gave us love and relationships so that we could experience the closeness with each other, because when we are with each other, when we're experiencing relationship, we're experiencing God. That when we are serving one another, we are serving God, because you represent a different aspect of him and I represent a different aspect of him. And when we serve one another, we are serving those aspects of him. We are worshiping him through service with one another. Love covers a multitude of sins. We were made for connection. We were made to be in relationship. We're going to dig in this for the next couple of weeks. But Jesus Christ has consistently sought after relationship since it was removed from God in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve make a decision. Sin is introduced into the world. Man is separated from God. And God begins to pursue man with everything in him, with the ultimate plan of Jesus coming back and dying on the cross so that you and I can be back in relationship with him, with no law, with no rules, with no restriction, with no traditions, with none of the religiosity that had been in place to somehow substitute man and God relationship. No, one-on-one, just as God was with Moses, face to face, a God living inside of us in relationship. Two more sets of scriptures, and then I'm going to close. I want to bring you to John 15 and 13. Greater love has no one than this, than someone lay his life down for his friend. He's saying, this is the mark. Here's the line. You're looking for a line. Here's the line. I'm going to draw it right here for you. No greater love than to lay your life down for a friend. And that Jesus Christ himself, God manifest in the flesh, loved you and I so much that he came onto this planet. He put on this flesh that you and I have, and he made you and I his friend. Because there's a scripture that we've all memorized, John 3:16, just a couple of chapters before John reminds us that no greater love than one who lays down his life for a friend. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Scripture that has probably been on more posters at more baseball games than probably any other scripture on the entire planet. And I hope and I pray that it doesn't lose its power. God loved you that much. He wants to be in relationship with you that much that he made you his friend. And then he laid down his life to prove his love. Because love covers a multitude of sins. It bridges the gap. It brings us back into relationship. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to first heal our relationships. How do we experience healing in all of our relationships, in every aspect of our relationships? How do we get to a place where relationships are growing, where I'm growing in my relationship with the Father, where I'm growing in my relationship with other men? And how do I experience relationships that are thriving, that I'm experiencing the full amazing aspects of being in relationship with Christ, of being in relationship with people? God wants that for you. He wants you to experience the fullness of relationship, first with him and then with other men. Those two things are running parallel. They're not one or the other. They're not one first and then the other. Those things are running parallel because God has made man in his image, and you represent a piece of him in all of your uniqueness and all of your quirks and all of the things that you would probably make a long list. At least I would. I'd make a long list of myself of the things I don't like. And God's saying, you know what? I made you, and I made you in my image, and you represent a different aspect of who I am. I pray that you long for relationship. That loneliness does not have to be a thing that we navigate through, a thing that we manage, a tension in our life that we somehow push through. These are lies from the enemy. God wants you to be in relationship. He says he is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Throughout the Bible, it is about relationships from Genesis to Revelation. God wants to be in relationship with you. He wants you to experience him in a very real way. This is why we meet in homes. This is why we meet over a meal. This is why we open the word together and we begin to navigate through this word together, is because some spectacular things happen whenever we're in relationship. Jesus himself was having meals with people in 90% of his stories because amazing things happen when people open their mouth, they open their heart. God wants to be in relationship with you. He wants to be in relationship with me. He wants us to be in relationship with one another. It's one of the more amazing aspects of what COVID-19 has kind of forced all of us to do, kind of slow down and figure out what is most important. And for a lot of us, it has been the reconnection of a lot of relationships. And I pray that you experience that same thing. I pray that you experience a relationship with our Father, that you would open up your heart, that you would be in communion with him and allow him to experience a real relationship as he steps into your life, as he fills you with his Spirit, as he moves you into a brand new life where these old things kind of move away, they go away naturally, and instead you experience this brand new life that is fullness and amazing mercies and grace and giftings and and you're experiencing brand new depths of who he is and what he wants for your life, because he says, I have good works for you. I've laid these things up for you. Those things are to be experienced through relationships. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for your word. I thank you that relationships matter, and they matter more than anything else. Your word is relationships from start to finish, that every story, every principle, every concept is wrapped and robed in relationships. Greatest two commandments, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Like, your relationship with us is the number one commandment. And then you said equally is the first. Everything else is yoked upon these two, to love our neighbor as ourselves. Three things: to love our God, to love our neighbor, to love ourselves. Father, I pray that we would do those three things. I don't know what we all may need. You know everything. You know the end from the beginning, Father, and you've given us the power of choice. And so right now, we choose to open up our hearts to you. We choose to open up our mouths to you. We choose to make you God over our lives, and we invite you in, Father. We invite you to step into our worlds, to allow us to experience complete healing and wholeness in relationship with you, so that the other relationships I have can be healthy. Father, may you heal your people. May you heal your land. Pray for all of those battling with COVID, whether it's fear, whether it's jobs, whether it's finances, whether it's the sickness itself. I pray that you would heal your land. We humble ourselves to you. You're the God of all. In the name of Jesus, I speak your healing upon your land. In the name of Jesus Christ. Everybody said amen. I thank you so much for tuning in with me today and hanging in there with me. I hope that something I said kind of sticks with you. Chew on it with me, okay? Chew on all about relationships. Start to analyze your relationship with the Father. Analyze your relationships around you. Do what the Bible says in 1 Peter and be sober-minded. Be self-aware. Understand we play a role in representing who the Father is, making sure that we are connected to the body. If you're looking for a place and you need prayer, if you're looking for someone to connect with you, we would love to connect with you. Please visit our website. You can hit a connect card there and just share your story. We want to know how we can best serve you. How can we best walk alongside of you and support what God is saying for you? If you need prayer, there's a place for some prayer requests. Submit your prayer requests. We will send that to our leadership immediately. Download our app if you're looking to connect with us. If you want to find a home church in your area, if you're looking for people that are like-minded, that will walk alongside of you and connect with you, you can get everything down on our app, Home Church 217, on both the Apple Store and on Google Play. And you can also just visit our website, homechurch217.com. Home Church 217 on all social media. Come give us a follow. Connect with us. Let us connect with you so that we can walk this along. We are still building to our launch, September the 27th. We'll not get here fast enough. We are so excited about launching. We are meeting weekly on Fridays right now together in homes. We're sharing a meal and then breaking open the Bible and experiencing some worship. And this past week was just an amazing time of just connection and fellowship, which is worship, right? When we are together and we are sharing stories and sharing our lives with one another, the testimony of Jesus is being spoken out, because we're walking that out each and every time, and we are worshiping the God that we serve. And I believe that rises above heaven as a fresh smelling aroma to him, as an offering of worship. We'd love to walk this out with you. Come check us out. Connect with us. Let us know your story. Let us know how we can best serve you. And until next time, we'll see you next week as we continue to chew on this. We continue to move on some of these action steps. If you didn't see some of the other videos from Pastor Alina or myself, go watch those. They're really powerful. And I think that you can move along with us and walk along with us as we begin to dig into relationships and open our lives up to see what the Father has to say about our relationships. We love you. We're praying for you. And I can't wait to see you again next Sunday. God bless.